Welcome traders. In this video we're going over the moving average framework. The moving average framework allows us to have a consistent set of options across all of our moving average indicators. Those options would be the visual parameters, the option parameters, the audio alert, the email alert, and the parameters, which are the multi-time frame option. The very first settings are specific to the moving average. So for the AMA, it's only one, it's a period. I have it set at 21 right now. And you'll notice that the indicator is gray. So if we want to color the indicator, or if we want to color the bars or the background, we can do that. But there's two options we have to set. We have to set the color logic, and we have to set the display type. The display type decides where the color is painted. The color logic decides how it's painted. So for the color logic, we have rising, falling, and then display type, we have bar color full, which just paints the body of the candle. Now bar color outline will paint the outline, and it'll color the wicks. Indicator color obviously does the indicator, and background color will paint the background color for whatever panel the indicator is in. Background color all will color every single panel that the indicator is applied to, but since we only have one indicator in one panel, I'm not going to set that. I'm going to change it back to indicator color. And you'll notice that the color is based on whether or not the moving average is moving up or if it's moving down. We can change that. We can change it to price above below. So if the close is above the moving average, it's green. If it's below the moving average, it's red. Now if we want a combination of rising, falling, and price above below, we have that. We have rising, falling with price. And as long as both conditions are met, the moving average is rising and the close is above the moving average, it will be green, and vice versa for red. Now it'll paint gray right here and here and here when both conditions aren't met. I'm going to change it back to rising, falling. Our next set of options is to draw a symbol or color the background whenever there's a change in color. You could do an arrow, a dot, diamond, whatever symbol you prefer. We can choose the offset, and you'll get an arrow whenever there's a change in color. Now if you don't like arrows and you prefer to color the background, we can do that as well. And now we have racing stripes wherever there's a change in the background color. Now I'm going to jump down to the audio and email alerts, because wherever there's a change in color, so where the background color is, you have the option to have an audio alert or an email alert. If you want an audio alert, just turn this to true, choose an audio file, and then you'll get an audio alert. Now if you use the NinjaTrader alert window, you can have the alert sent there, and you can turn this to true, and the alerts will be sent to the NinjaTrader alert window. If you want an email, set this to true, fill in the from and to address, and you'll get an email whenever there's a change in the indicator color. Now you don't have to color the racing stripes or have the symbols for it to actually alert. You do have to at least choose a color logic and a display type, and then you'll get an alert whenever there's a change in the coloring. That brings us to our options parameters. This allows us to modify the moving average, or how the coloring is applied to the moving average. The minimum change ticks/value, what that does is two things. If number 2 is set to false and we change 0 to 4 and hit apply, you'll see everything is gray. Now if we make it a little bit smaller, let's just say 1 tick, you'll see there's some gray, but there's also red and green. What this does is it looks at the moving average value from bar to bar, so from this bar to this bar, and it says, did the moving average move at least 1 tick? If the answer is yes, it will apply the coloring logic. If it's no, it's going to be gray or whatever color you set down here. If we set use turn direction as true, I'll show you what happens there, but I'm going to set this back to 0 just so we can see where the change in color was. So the change in color was right here. That's important when we set this to true. When we set this to true, it looks for what would be a change in color, and then it waits for the moving average value to at least move whatever amount of ticks you set here. So if we set it to 4, right here when the color changed from green to red, it waited for the moving average to move at least 4 ticks before it started painting red. So you can see how that's kind of important, because over here when we went from red back to green, the moving average stayed flat and it didn't color the moving average at all. So let me show you what that looked like again. You can see over here there were a lot of color changes, and because we set this to 4 and this to true, it got rid of all of that choppiness. So let's set this back to false and 0 so we can move on to our next option. Our next option is to make the moving average look like a step moving average. We have 2 ways to do that. One is a normalized, and the other is a corrected function. Both slightly different calculations. I suggest you play around with them to see which one, if any, you like best. The other option we have is to use the indicator as an oscillator. If we set this to true, and then we come down here and we change this to a new panel, it will put the moving average into an oscillator form. This is important because you can now compare this moving average to an oscillator such as the RSI or the CCI. So let's turn this back to false. Let's put it back up in the chart panel. And our last option is to make this a multi-time frame indicator. So right now we have a 5-minute chart. If we wanted the moving average on a 15-minute chart, we can do that very easily. And now we have a moving average based on a 15-minute chart. If you wanted to use a custom bar type like the logic line break, we could do that. Change the minute to 3, the line breaks to 3. We are enabled and hit apply. And now we have a multi-time frame 3-line break based on a 3-minute on a 5-minute chart, and it was just that easy. Now turn it off, just switch that to false, and now we have the moving average based on the 5-minute chart. If you have any questions, please send us an email, support@theindicatorclub.com.